To start us off, I'm going to share a couple personal stories or experiences that I've had that I would say were game changers for me in terms of health. And the first one, and for those of you, I'm going to go through this quite quickly because I see we have some current customers and some people that I know have already read my latest book. But I'd like you to go back to May 1999, May 31st, 1999. I was running a marathon, actually the Burlington Marathon. It was called the Millennial Marathon. And it was, we were actually raising money for a local hospital. In any event, I'd been training all winter in cool weather. We were talking about weather earlier, and it was cool all winter. And then on May 3rd, on the date of the marathon, it turned out to be one of the very warmest days of the year. So I ran the race, and it was all I remember is just being as hot. I've never been so hot, and I was stopping at every water station and getting hydrating and getting sprayed down. Actually, my brother was manning one of the water stations. But in any event, when I finished the marathon, didn't set any records because it was very, very hot. And to give you an idea of the heat, there was over 1,000 participants that started the marathon, and less than 400 finished it, which shows you, because generally there's only about 10% dropout in a marathon. So because of the heat, significant numbers dropped out. And one of the unfortunate things of training for a marathon is you learn to ignore signs. So people to this day say, didn't you feel bad, or how did you feel? And actually during the race, I felt fine. I was running, I was joking, I was, having a good time during the race, finished in just over 4 hours. And that's when I noticed things kind of went downhill. I wasn't feeling well, went to the medical tent. They basically took my blood pressure, took my heart rate, and told me to go home. They said, Kev, you're fine. Which I didn't do. My wife actually went to a violin recital with one of our other sons, Matt, but I stayed at the race site because I just didn't feel good. She even backed the vehicle up to get me in, and I said, no, I'm not leaving. I went back to the medical tent, basically suggested that I need an ambulance, and the doctor, who I know quite well, kind of rolled his eyes and ordered me an ambulance. And that's the last thing I remember. I climbed in that ambulance, and with my 8-year-old son, because he was with me, and that's the last thing I remember. They took me to Joseph Brant. I was actually, so picture this, I'm in the back of an ambulance, basically passed out, unconscious, flying down the lake shore. My wife is actually on her way back to pick me up at this point after the race, and she didn't know that the ambulance that she passed that I was in. So anyways, they took me to the hospital, didn't know what was the matter. It took 11 doctors and nurses to tie me down because I was convulsing so bad. They basically gave me what I needed to calm down, did CT scans, MRIs. What I had was a condition called hyponatremia, which is actually low sodium in the blood caused by overhydration. So so actually the opposite of dehydration, right? And back then it was like, when you're thirsty, drink, 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 drink. So you basically flood your system. I was in a coma on full life support, full respirator, full ventilator for the better part of a week, 6 days. They actually gave they gave me a less than 10% chance of surviving. And lo and behold, 6 days later, I woke up, and I wouldn't say it took me 2 or 3 months to recover, but for the reason I share that story is, for a long time, I blamed the heat. I really looked at that and said, oh, there was the heat that caused that. And yeah, heat was a factor. But in my case, I always felt that the way I stayed healthy was by fitness, and fitness equaled health. And that is clearly not the case, because when I look back, I was starting a business at the time. We had 3 young children, the stresses of running a business, raising a family. I wasn't paying attention to my sleep. I wasn't paying attention to my stress levels, and really wasn't paying attention to what I was putting in my mouth, because I felt that I could just train my way to good health. So that was my first wake-up call. And I would say and I'm going to talk about a concept in a few moments called the Wheels of Health, which is a very simple framework that we endorse, that I encourage you to use. So after the marathon, took me 3 or 4 months to recover, and I kind of kept running and doing other things. But I basically went back to my life again. And until in 2009, I went for my executive medical. So every year I would go for an executive medical, comprehensive medical. I know, looking at the people on the call, a number of you have been for them or to them before, whether it's like a Cleveland Clinic or MedCan or Copeman or wherever you go. And so I had gone every year, and I just thought it'd be the regular results. Well, after I had my medical, I met with the doctor, and Dr. Randy, he pulled out his pad, his prescription pad. He says, "I got to put you on a few meds." And I said, "What do you mean you have to put me on meds?" He said, "You have high cholesterol, you have high blood pressure, you're pre-diabetic, and you're 45 pounds overweight." And I thought I was actually in pretty good shape. So I begged him. I basically said, "Randy, give me 3 months to change things around." And he kind of rolled his eyes. He said, "Kev, you've been abusing your body for years." And he actually showed me a chart of what had been going on the last number of years. And my, blood pressure had been increasing. My sugar levels had been increasing. My cholesterol was increasing, but now it was all in danger range. And he just said, "Kev, you're getting older. And as you get older, you go on meds." He says, "It's just normal." So I begged him again. I said, "Give me 3 months." And he said, "Oh," reluctantly said, "Okay, I'll give you 3 months." Well, I went home and literally I dialed things in from, I'll say, a nutrition standpoint. I'm going to share a few of these things in a moment. But, after 1 month, I had lost 14 pounds. I was feeling better. I was feeling energetic. People were actually commenting to me saying, "What are you doing? Like, you look amazing." And that was after 1 month. So I called Dr. Randy and I said, "I'd like to get my blood test done." And he said, "Yeah, but we weren't doing that for 3 months." And I said, I'd like to get them done now, I think, if that's okay with you." And he said, "Kev, they aren't going to change in 1 month. Like, these things, you've been abusing your body for years. These things take a long time to fix themselves." And I said, "Can you do me a favor? Can you just give me a requisition?" So he did. So I did the requisition. Obviously, the results went to him. The next week, I get a call. He didn't even introduce himself. He just, at the other end of the phone, it was, "You're my star patient." And I kind of thought, "Who the heck is this?" He says, "You're my star patient." And he said, "It's Dr. Randy." He said, "I just got all your blood tests back." He said, "Not only are you within range," he says, "your cholesterol's low, your sugar levels are very low." He said, "I haven't done your blood pressure, but I'm sure when you come in, your blood pressure will be low as well." And I shared with him that I had lost 14 pounds at that point. So, what it showed me is how quickly things can change, like how our bodies want to heal. And it showed me, and I guess my learning from it is, if you can change your health, if I could change my health that much in 1 month by really just changing a few things from a dietary standpoint, what could I do, in terms of longevity and over years of paying attention to my health? So, as I mentioned, I developed a concept that I call the wheels of health. Vanessa, if you could just go to the next slide, please. And for those that have read my book, you'll see that this is a big component of it. And it's really simple. The wheels of health are exercise, which I call movement, eating well, so eating nutritious, sleep, and mindfulness. And that's really what I'm going to touch on today. But the idea is you want all those wheels in balance. And if you look at that as a wheel, you want them in balance, and you want them, I'm going to say, 4 to 5 out of 5. Are they always going to be 4 or 5 out of 5? No, they won't. But the idea is to keep it there as often as we can. And so if I look back to what happened to me with my marathon, my exercise was dialed in. So it would have been a 4 or 5 or 5 out of 5, but I wasn't eating well. I was probably a 1 or 2. Wasn't sleeping well because I just started a business, high stress levels, 1 or 2. Was I paying attention to stress for mindfulness? No, not at all. So I was probably a 1 or 2. So literally I had one of my wheels that was in balance and the other 3 were out of balance. And even when I relate back to the second story I shared with you in my second wake up call with my executive medical, my results there, again, I continued to exercise, but raising a family and stress of starting a new company at that time, again, I wasn't eating well, I wasn't sleeping well, and I wasn't paying attention to my stress levels. So really what I'd like to share with you today is just get high level into each of those areas. And we are going to have some future workshops I'll tell you about later where we're going to dive into each of these wheels independently. So we're going to have one on nutrition and eating and one on sleep and one on exercise as we move forward. But today I wanted to try to give you, some things that have worked for me that are takeaways that you can take away and use, not next week or next month, like use today, like use this afternoon or tonight as part of your overall journey towards better health. So the first wheel again is eating well. And so we're going to take a poll here. So Vanessa, would you mind just, and I'd like everybody to vote and just to see where everybody's at. So Vanessa, would you mind just going over this, please?
Definitely. So this is our first poll here. We'd like you to kind of reflect on your own eating habits and overall nutrition, and using the wheels of health and the different levels that Kevin's described, just rank yourself between 0 to 2, 2 to 3, somewhere in the middle, and then 4 to 5 on the better end of things there. So I'll leave this open for about 5 more seconds. I see the votes coming in. That's great. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, so I'll share the results with the group. They're all anonymous.
That's good.
So
that's good, actually. So level 2, we had 45% saying I would like to pay more attention to my nutrition. However, find conflicting messages, which is what we hear all the time, right? There's so many conflicting messages, paleo, vegan, plant-based, like there's all these different things out there. And number 4 to 5, my nutrition is important to me and I'm always looking for ways to improve it. So that's great. I mean, what that tells me is that people, and that's probably why you're on the call today, because you want to improve these things. And again, this is just one component of health, is the nutrition component, right? So again, we want all these wheels to be in balance, but I thought I'd share a couple of things that really worked for me, because the biggest question I get asked, especially after the executive medical, is what did you do to change all your blood levels in 1 month? And I did a few things, but they were all mainly revolved around what I was putting in my mouth on a daily basis. And the first thing, and probably the most important, that I still do every day, I did it again today, I do it pretty much every day. People that know me, that I see on the call, they know that I do this, is I have a morning shake every single morning. And you can see the size of that. That's a 2-liter Vitamix shake. And I call it Wilson Shake. It's named after my dog, Wilson, who lived to be 18 years old. And every single morning, he would beg for my morning shake. So it was kind of funny because I called my dog a vegan. But in any event, and you can get this recipe through, we'll send the link after, but it's also in my book. And I believe it's on our website as well. But really simply, I mean, it's not rocket science, right? I go and grab some organic frozen fruit, and I do use frozen fruit because it's flash frozen. And I say, so it's very fresh, it's organic. I do that year round. It makes it cold. Then I kind of look in the fridge and see what's there. And generally I grab like organic lettuce or some carrots or some cucumber, or, sometimes I take my salad that's left over from the night before and I dump it in. So kind of whatever's in there. I add a little spirulina and chlorella, which is really good for anti-inflammatory. Sometimes I put in some maca powder. I put in some plant-based protein. Usually I put in either flax or hemp seeds or both, because that gives you the fiber that you need. A little cinnamon, which is again very good and helps the turmeric absorb, because you'll see the next thing is turmeric. And then vitamin C, because we all know vitamin C is good. I do mix it up, but those are mainly the key things are the fruits, the vegetables, and then I add some powders. And again, generally a plant-based powder is what I use. And so often I get asked, if there's one thing I can do different or should do different, what I suggest to people, if you do nothing else, start your day with a shake. Because I tell you, you're so full after the morning shake that you're really not going to be that hungry for other things. And and the other way I look at it is you're flooding your system with nutrients, with vegetables, with minerals. Like if I don't have another salad or another vegetable the whole day, I'm already at double or triple what my what my guidelines are that I should be having on a daily basis. So I'm in good shape, and anything I have on top of that is a bonus. So again, the Wilson shake is a go-to for me. I can't see everybody, but Aastha and Vanessa, maybe you can, but just show of hands, who starts their day with a morning shake? Can you see? I can't see everybody, but.
And are you also going to ask the reverse, who starts with a cup of coffee? Because I'm sure we have some coffee lovers here. John, I see you.
I have that too, but again, it's organic.
Nice.
I know. I saw Bob's hand up. I knew because I talked to him last week. We had a call and he had his morning smoothie in front of him. So good work.
I got 2 weeks of shakes so far. So
awesome. Good for you, Rob. Excellent. The other thing in terms of the next thing I talk about is 80-20 rule. And every day there's a new diet coming out, a new fad, and every day a new book on a newfound diet. And I believe the reason diets don't work is they're totally restrictive, right? It's like you need to do these things, you need to count your calories, or you can only have these things. And you know what? Natural instinct is, if you're built the way I am, and I think most of us, if we don't want to go off those things, and when we do, we kind of throw in the towel and say, I've failed, right? So what I believe in is 80-20 rule. And that's 80% of the time I try to make sure what goes in my mouth is very healthy, right? So, so you can take, if you say today, okay, over the course of the day, I'm having 10 servings of food, whatever that is, could be like almonds, or it could be lunch, or your shake in the morning. If 8 out of 10 of them are healthy, relatively healthy, then you're doing really well, right? And that's, so our program gives you permission to, I'll say, fail or cheat or whatever, or reward yourself because you've been good the other 80% of the time. And I don't know about you, but if I got 80% when I was going through school, that was like, I was doing really well, right? I was like on fire. That was when I was going home to show my mom. Instead of the 50s and 60s. So, 80-20, and there's different ways to do it. So the other thing I personally try to do is I try to do my 80% during the week. On the weekends, I like to, non-COVID, see people, socialize. So my kind of Monday to Friday is I really stick to my kind of plan, and I'm free on the weekends. I have some chips. I have a few glasses of red, of course, organic wine, or some of Bob's very clean beer. That he brews. But so again, just try 80-20 rule. And I've had many people say, you know what, that's been a game changer for me, because it allows me to kind of live life and not believe I have to be this perfectionist all the time. I'm going to go through a couple of others fairly quickly, because again, we're going to have another session just on nutrition. But very simply, I try to eat non-processed as much as I can, right? Whole food diet. Like people say, well, what is that? Non-processed basically means minimally touched or minimally processed. So you think of the longest living people in the world, like the Centurions, the Sardinians, that live long and healthy over 100 years of age. They eat off their land, right? Or you think of our ancestors, right? They lived off their land, they lived off their farms. There was a time not long ago when heart disease did not exist. Think of that, no heart disease, right? Because people lived off the land and things were not processed. Swing with the seasons. We try to go as much as we can, Barb and I, with the seasons. So now we're starting to get more fresh produce. In the winter, we tend to eat more cooked vegetables, that type of thing. So swing with the seasons. And the last one is drink plenty of water, but not if you're running a marathon like I was in 36-degree temperatures. So I'll just ask again for input in terms of eating well. Who can give us a golden nugget or something that you've done that has been a game changer for you or somebody in your family in terms of health? And I'll just remind you, there are prizes here. So anybody?
Phil, welcome to go off mute.
Come on.
Hey, Kevin, it's John. How are you?
Good, John. How you doing? Thanks,
I'm good,
John.
thanks. One of the things that I found that helped me is a food diary. So it kind of does play into your routine a bit. And I think we've probably read a lot of the same books and followed some of the same guidelines. But for me, especially if I was trying to shed a few pounds, and there's plenty of apps. I use Perfect Diet Tracker, which was really good because it already identified a number of kind of pre-existing recipes, and so it's simple. And that was a discipline I found that just helped me. So it wasn't really a diet, but it is amazing to be able to see in a graphical form what you're consuming calorie-wise, percentage of protein, carbohydrate, fats. It really is a wake-up call. And my favorite cocktail is Rusty Now. When you dial that in, you go, okay, those have to be limited. So
that's your 20%.
Yeah.
That's your 20%.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, because it's one thing I do. I think it's like anything in life. If we measure it, then it brings awareness, right? So that's really what you're saying. I measured it and you went, okay, I got to change a few things here. And I'm going to show you a tool that I use every night to measure each of these wheels of health. So thanks for sharing that, John. Let's go on to the next one, which is sleep. And I know many of you subscribe to my blog, and it's interesting when I write about sleep and things you can do to improve sleep, they're always my most highly read blogs, which tells me that many people have sleep issues. So Vanessa, could you just take us through our poll on sleep, please?
Definitely. Yep. So here we're going to ask our audience to rate your overall sleep using the similar structure as the last poll. So level 0 to 2, you have trouble falling asleep or staying asleep. 2 to 3, you have issues, but you're unsure as to how to solve them. And levels 4 to 5, you get a good amount of rest, around 7 hours of uninterrupted sleep per night, and you wake up feeling fully refreshed. So we'll give that about 10 more seconds.
And I was just going to say the disclaimer there is if there are any young parents on the call, you can ignore this poll because it doesn't exist for you. Don't even bother. It's all good.
Awesome. So here we have our final results.
Yeah, so you can see, I mean, if levels 0 to 2 or 2 to 3 would tell me that, obviously those sleep issues out there. And if you add those two together, we're at 57%. Yeah. So, and then it's great to see that, many of you are getting great sleeps each night, at least 7 hours of uninterrupted sleep. I generally don't see that. So we must have some very healthy people that know how to get a good night's sleep on the call. So congratulations to you. So in terms of sleep, a few things I'll just share, and then again, I'll ask for input on any gold nuggets that are working for you as well. But for me, what I find is if I do the same routine at night, I have a great sleep. And if I go off that routine, I don't have a great sleep. And it's that simple. Okay. And so some of the things I do relates to the next one is I shut my screens down at night. I think it was Monday. I had been in virtual meetings all day. And then Monday night, I said, I have like 150 emails to answer. So I was doing emails till like 10:30 at night. And lo and behold, when I wake up in the morning and look at my sleep score, it was lousy, right? And I had a lousy sleep, and I woke up at 3 a.m. thinking of work, and because I didn't follow my routine, right? And 9 times out of 10, again, using the 80% rule, or 8 times out of 10, I try to follow my routine. And my routine is pretty simple: no screens at night, kind of wind down at least an hour before bed. I either have a detox or chamomile tea, very relaxing tea. I generally read in bed every night, and I read, I'll say, non-business books, right? So that my mind's not thinking about business. And then I shut off the light, and I do a thing called a positive focus, which is I think of 3 great things that have happened that day. And I tell you, some days you got to search for it, right? But it could be as simple as, I had a great walk, or Barb and I went for a hike, or I had a great meeting with a client, whatever comes up, but 3 things. And it's amazing. You kind of do that. And then I usually do a few deep breaths that Vanessa took us through, which we'll get to in a moment. And then you just kind of drift off to sleep. Like before I know it, I don't even have to think about getting to sleep because I'm asleep. And then I have a very restful sleep. So for me, bedtime routine is a game changer in terms of sleep. I already mentioned it, no screens at night. When I do, so I'm in my office now. When my workday is over, I shut my screen. I put my phone on a charge table in the hall, and I don't look at it, because I find when I do look at it, and that's why I put it in the hall, because then I'm not tempted to look at it. Because your brain interprets when you're on screens that you're working again, right? Especially during COVID, when we're on screens all day. So that's again a rule I have. And you heard me talk, and John, you talked about this earlier, know your score. So I use a Whoop, but there's Aura rings, there's Apple watches. So every morning I wake up and analyze my sleep, and how was my sleep, and just like a real off top of my head, if I went to bed, let's say at 11 and woke up at 7, I used to think I got 8 hours sleep. What I find is it's an hour less than I think. Right. So even during the night, even though I don't think I'm awake, you're tossing, you're turning, you're waking up to your different REM cycles, your deep sleep cycles. And again, we're going to have a whole another session just on sleep and what a perfect night's sleep looks like. But again, if that's one thing that you do, say, I'm just going to figure out my sleep score, it's a great step forward, because I think you'll be surprised, and then you can act on it. So again, in terms of sleep, or even in the chat, is there any game changers or any tip? What's worked for somebody else that they can share with the group?
We have a comment in the chat here. So turmeric tea at night, and definitely making sure that your bedroom is not for work stuff, but only your place when you're going down for the night for sleep. So that came into the chat.
Yeah, that's awesome. And turmeric is an anti-inflammatory, so that's perfect. You're deflaming your system, which inflammation, unfortunately, is one of the most common reasons for illness and disease. So that's great. And then, yeah, in terms of your just your setting is all where you're sleeping. Like, don't combine work. And another thing that I do is I make sure all the drapes are blocked off, and I put cushions so no light can get in. So, there's different things you can do there as well. Anybody else have any in terms of sleep? Another gold nugget that somebody's using? Anybody?
I can just quickly share what works for our household, is making sure our weekend routine is the same as our weekday routine, and not sleeping in later on Saturdays and Sundays, just, consistency. I mean, 30 minutes here and there is okay, but the minute we kind of, are lazing around too much on the weekends, it messes up the weekdays as well.
Yeah, that's a great one. So you keep your sleep consistent, and that's what again, that's perfect. And there's one here from Delphine, I think her name is I've managed my husband can't watch TV in the bedroom anymore. Perfect.
Love it.
That's a good one. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so let's go to the next one in terms of what I call movement or exercise. So Vanessa, do you want to just quickly do the poll on this one?
Perfect. So here we are. We're going to ask the audience, how would you rate your overall exercise? So level 0 to 2, you don't feel you get enough exercise, or you don't have a regular regime. 2 to 3, you're somewhere in the middle. You'd like to exercise more, but maybe you're unsure exactly how to get started or what type works for you. And then levels 4 to 5, exercise is part of your daily routine, and you try as hard as you can to make sure you're at your peak. Okay, so leave it open. A couple more seconds.
I would predict that based on the previous two polls, we've got a healthy group here. Probably it's going to be quite high, I would think. Oh, not as high as I thought. Okay, so don't get enough exercise. Actually, almost half, 45%. Like to exercise more, unsure of how to get started, frequency, type of exercise best for me. And 27%, so over a quarter, is part of my daily schedule, and I do everything possible to ensure I'm peak performance. So congratulations to that group. That's commendable. So again, I'll just share some things that through my own research and things that I've done over the years that have really helped. And that's really what I'm trying to do. And really what I tried to do in my book is write about, you kind of condense 20 years of learning so that you could have something very simple guide that can help you kind of fast track your own health. But it's no secret that the longest living people in the world, I referred to them earlier, centurions. So on places like Sardinia, Italy, and even in California, there's basically, if you've read Dan Buettner's book, Blue Zones, there's 5 places in the world that have exponentially more centurions than anywhere else in the world. And centurions, again, is defined as people that live over 100. And don't just live over 100, but live and are active and are social, and many of them still working on their farms. And so one of the things that they all have in common is they move every day. And I say move every day because often we think we got to go and hop on a treadmill. We got to go to the gym. We got to, hit weights. We got to do elliptical. You know what? The research shows that you just need to move every day, right? So that's walking, hiking, perhaps stretching, yoga, doing something every single day. And it's critical that you do that every day. And if you do that every day, you're sending a message. First of all, exercise releases a hormone called HGH, which is human growth hormone, which that decreases as we age and causes aging. So exercise actually increases HGH. So it's natural increasing that hormone to combat, I'll say, aging. So, when people say, what should I do? I say, do what you want to do, move every day, right? Pretty simple, move every day. Guess what the second one is? Guess what the number one reason for people over age of 80 is that enter a hospital? Guess what the number one reason is over 80 years old? Anybody? Don't be shy. Anybody?
Falling.
Right.
Falling, yeah.
Falling, exactly, right on. Falls, right? So falls and breaking a hip, a knee, a shoulder, a collarbone, right? So as we age, we lose flexibility and we lose strength. So again, a way to increase your human growth hormone, very important, is strength training. So I personally never have done a lot of strength training. I'm more of always been a cardio person. But I make a point now of minimum 2 days a week of doing strength training. And again, you don't need a gym. Like I go out on my back deck. I mean, I can do push-ups. I've got some tubing. I've got a stability ball that I can use to do core. Like, again, I think we have to have this perfect setting. And actually what COVID has taught me is I don't need to go to a gym. I'd like to go to a gym, but I don't need to. I can have a great workout. And I've kind of combined that with the next one, which is get outside. Study after study shows that exercising, not just exercising, but being outdoors, being in nature. You've heard of forest bathing. I've heard people talk about hiking, about walking, all different things. When we're out in nature, A, you're moving, but B, it's very good for the mind, right? There's people with mental health issues that have actually come off their meds or decreased their meds by getting outside on a daily basis, right? So just, again, what I try to do more than as much as I can is do my exercise outdoors. Like sometimes it's out, it's in the winter and I'm still out trying to bike, which is probably ridiculous. But anyways, I try to get outside as much as I can. And Belinda just said, what was Belinda's comment there? Yeah, winter's so hard. I agree. So, and just on that, I bought myself a fat tire bike so I could go biking in the snow. Right? So, there are ways around it. Engage in active family playtime. Like I love when I see on Instagram our families are not, they're out doing things together. They're enjoying each other. They're socially interacting, especially this year. But also they're being active, right? And they're moving, again, getting back to that moving on a daily basis. And the last thing that I would say is do what you enjoy. Like exercise should not be, oh man, I have to do this. I have to go to the gym, or what do you like? Do you like walking? Walk. Do you like hiking? Hike. Do you like, you like biking? Bike. You like swimming? Swim. Like do what you enjoy, because doing something is better than doing nothing. Okay. So again, any golden nuggets anybody can share with us in terms of exercise, either through the chat or feel free to speak up. Anybody, anything you're doing, I'll ask it a different way. Is there anything you're doing different this year because of COVID that you didn't do previously?
Yeah, one thing that I've done is sign up for some challenges, some online challenges, and follow some groups on Facebook. They keep me motivated and they keep me intrigued. And when I have a set exercise routine and it can't be more than 30 minutes every day, then if somebody tells me what I have to do and I follow a video, then I can get it done. But if I'm left to my own device, I might not, and I will procrastinate.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so you're using, tools that are out there. Thanks for sharing that, Andre. So I think that's how you pronounce your name. I apologize if I mispronounced it, but great. Again, you're using tools that are out there and all around us in order to motivate. And I mean, I know some ladies in our office, they do the same thing. Like they, 2 or 3 times a week at the same time, they go online and they actually do it as a Zoom session. So they're keeping themselves motivated to each other as well, right? So excellent.
And I
Thanks for
see a
sharing.
couple of other comments coming in. John, I love that you're testing out yoga. I hope that's going out really well for you. And then there's dancing, which is awesome. And then walking, which is great because now with the warmer weather, we can all get walking. Even if there are restrictions, you can walk in our neighborhood.
Yeah, and 3 to 7 kilometers a day. That's awesome. Yeah, for sure. Even just steps. I mean, everybody says 10,000 steps. Well, there's no magic to 10,000 steps. It's just moving, do something, right? So awesome. Good. So let's go to the mindfulness. And again, we will just start off with a quick poll in terms of mindfulness. So Vanessa, would you mind taking us through that?
Absolutely. So here is our final poll for our session. How would you rate your overall ability to live in the present moment? So we have level 0 to 2. You find yourself uptight, overstressed, you're really not paying too much attention to your thoughts throughout the day. 2 to 3, you're somewhere in the middle, but you're looking for ways to improve. And 4 to 5, you perhaps practice mindfulness daily and you find that you are aware of your thoughts and emotions. Awesome. So we'll give that about 5 more seconds. Okay, great. I see we have a lot of votes in, and I'll share the results here with everyone.
Uptight, overstressed, don't pay much. So that's good. We have very few in the 0 to 2. That's awesome. Not sure the best way to practice mindfulness, looking for ways to improve. 2 to 3. So that's good, good percentage there. And then I'm fully aware of my thoughts, emotions, and I practice mindfulness daily. That's awesome. That's like 40%, which is really good. And I must say, this was probably the last one for me to, and I'm not by no means a pro at it, but it was the toughest one for me to tackle, right? Mindfulness, because I'm not sure why. I think we just think that it wasn't, I personally thought maybe it wasn't that important. But the exercise that Vanessa took us through at the beginning in terms of just doing some simple breaths, what that does is it engages your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your relaxed system, versus your stress system, which is your sympathetic nervous system, right? So just doing some of those breathing exercises, and we've outlined a few here, and I have some more in my book, some of my favorites, but box breathing is basically inhale for the certain number of seconds, let's say 5 seconds, hold for 5 seconds, and then exhale for 5 seconds. And again, this doesn't have to take long. Like you do 5 breaths like we did at the beginning. It's amazing how it just puts you in this zen, this just relaxed state of mind. And one of my favorites, and I've actually read a few books on breathing and the importance of breath, and even while you're exercising and everything else, but it's called 4-7-8. So it's 4 seconds in, 7-second hold, and then 8 seconds out, which is actually hard to do. If you try it for the first few times, you're going to go, and don't do it while you're driving at first, because there have been people that have actually passed out doing it. But it's a great, that's probably my favorite breathing exercise, because I just find it just really puts me in a totally relaxed state of mind. So for me, breathing has been key. One year I went for my executive medical, and the doctor put a finger monitor on my finger, and I thought I was just measuring my oxygen intake. And he says, what's your stress level, or how stressed are you on a daily basis? And I said, 3 or 4 out of 10. I don't have a lot of stress in my life. He turned the screen around, and it was all red. He said, that's the activity going on in your brain right now, right? So no wonder at the time I wasn't sleeping well or anything else. And this is what sold me on breathing. He says, have you ever done any deep breathing? I said, no. And he said, do you mind if I take you through 5 minutes of deep breathing? And that's all he did, 5 minutes of deep breathing, just like Vanessa did at the beginning. And he said, okay, open your eyes. And of course I was groggy after 5 minutes. And he showed me the screen, the same screen that had been all red. It was red for about 30 seconds, then it dropped to green, and it was near the bottom axis the rest of the time we did the deep breathing. So that sold me on the importance of deep breathing or mindfulness or meditation, right? And I go through periods where I meditate and don't meditate. And, ideally I would love to meditate on a daily basis. But, for me, deep breathing is a good kind of short-term step for that. And then another thing that I do is I practice a mantra, and I do this every day. And I either do it, as I said, as part of my nightly routine, if I don't get to it during the day, but I often try to do it while I exercise, and especially when I'm outside. I find it really easy when I'm outside. So it's really simple. And it's what Vanessa and Aastha talked about earlier, is be in the present, right? So, if I'm outside, let's say, and I'm riding or running or walking or hiking, whatever I'm doing, being in the present means, looking at the nature, looking at the birds, hearing things. And it's amazing when you kind of put on your senses. I'll hear a bird that's kind of, a mile away type of thing, right? It's amazing when you open your mind to just being in the present and what you notice. You actually go, wow, I didn't notice that. Like just simple things, right? Second is, what do I appreciate? What do I have appreciation for? And I think we've all heard and read the importance of gratitude and expressing gratitude or appreciation. So again, what do you appreciate in your life? Could be your family, could be where you're at, could be during COVID, you've been COVID free. Whatever you're appreciative for, and that's a personal thing. I always bring love in it. So who do I love in my life? I think of my mom and dad who have passed away, people that have predeceased. My family, my kids, my wife, and again, that just gives you a very, I'll say, warm feeling. And then one that I really focus on, and I don't think we focus on this enough, and Aastha and I were actually doing a mental health seminar yesterday to a large organization for all their employees. And she put it best. She said, we really focus so much on the past. And when we do that, you can't really look to the future, and when you think the future is bright, and we can control the future, right? We can't control the past. We can't even control the present because it just left like a second ago, right? But you can control what we can do in the future, which gives us confidence, right? So, the more we can look to the future versus looking in the past, the better off we are mentally, I believe. So Aastha, I'm not sure if you have anything to add to that, because I think you put it so eloquently during our session.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. A tool that I just shared with everyone in the chat function there is the 5-minute journal. I've used the physical copies, but they've come out with an amazing app. So if anyone's looking, I know there are a couple there in the middle just saying, what do I use? How do I practice mindfulness? It's a great sort of tool. It's free of charge, and you do it in the morning and you do it at night. And over time, it just becomes daily practice. So sharing it with everyone in hopes that at least you can give it a shot.
Yeah, and that's something Aastha introduced to me, and and the good news is it pops up every day, and you answer it, right? So it makes it, you don't have to even think to do it. So it's great. Okay, excellent. So John mentioned this at the beginning of the session, and that is measuring. So one thing I do every night, I start every day with my morning shake. Sometimes I have my coffee before that, depending if I'm working out or not. But I always, before I go to sleep at night, when I mentioned I have a routine, part of that routine is I keep a log every single night. And it takes me, 30 seconds, right? And I just kind of go through, okay, what were my meals? What snacks did I have? What exercise did I have that day? How was my sleep the night before? And what did I do in terms of stress reduction or mindfulness during the day? And then I rank myself. How did I do? Satisfactory, amazing. And again, that's a self-assessment. And then what's your goal for tomorrow? Could be, maybe today you didn't get your workout in, so tomorrow you're going to get your workout in. Maybe it's to have healthier meals. But I have this beside my bed on my night table, and literally every single night I have a pen attached to it, and I just complete it. And again, that is in the back of the book. And I believe, and we'll send you the link as well. So you can, if you want, you can print them off and start using them. But again, it's something that what we measure, what we keep track of, I guarantee the fact that you're actually tracking it, it'll change some things for you. Okay. So before we're going to finish up, just because we get questions, a lot of questions around Advica. So I just want to finish up on that. But does anyone from a health standpoint, I know we went through each of those 4 wheels fairly quickly. And again, next steps, we will be focusing on each wheel independently. Because you can have a whole session on nutrition, and we'll be also engaging some other experts as well that are part of our network. But does anybody have any other tips they'd like to share with anybody else about that has to do with any of those 4 wheels of health? Anybody? Yeah, Bob? Thank you.
Just something that worked for me and is working with Marina in your business, who's your nutritionist. And she did some work on looking at what foods that I was allergic to. And I found it very interesting. The outcome is because I found that a lot of things that I had allergies to were things that I ate every day. And I went through a 3-month period where I purposely eliminated all of those out of my diet. And I wasn't someone who needed to lose weight. I ended up losing 5 pounds as a result of that. And I felt a lot better. And slowly you can bring some of those back in and see how they impact you. But it made a big impact on how I felt by taking those foods out that I had an allergy to.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's a great test. I mean, it's one of the tests we encourage for all of our members, and I've had it myself. My kids have had it. Like, it's a great test, right? So thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Anyone else? And then we'll just wrap up with, again, we've got some Advica members on the call, and then we've got others who are guests. So just like to share, and even for our members, often they forget kind of what's included. But so what services are included by Advica? I'm going to spend a quick moment on that. We have different programs for different people. So we have individual programs, we have executive programs, and we have employee programs. And they vary in price from as low as, $15 a month up to $119 a month, depending on. So we've got different programs for different people. But what Advica really offers is 2 things. One is peace of mind. Okay. And it also, and time. And just to explain those, peace of mind is often we don't know where to go for help, right? So Bob, you mentioned you went to Marina, who's our lead nutritionist, part of Advica. So often people don't know where to go, or a friend will say, oh, you should try this person out. You should try this person out. We give people peace of mind from a health standpoint because we've already done all the legwork. We know who the best are. We know who the gold standard is, and we have access to them as well. Right. So as part of our network, which is really what Advica is about, is we help people find both the best proactive. So Bob, to the test you shared, food sensitivity test, food inflammation test, or allergy test, one of those 3. You're proacting on your health so that conditions don't blow up down the road. Right. And so you can see, and we've just listed a few of them here that really relate to the wheels of health. So everything from nutritional counseling, microbiome, we all read about, the importance of that, hormone and blood testing, food inflammation testing, which is what Bob just talked about, functional medicine, which is, how do I live not just long, but long and healthy. Getting into the fitness or that side of it is, how do I move? Am I moving properly? Or is my knees working? Are my arms working? We have access to the best fitness coaching. So a lot of our members just say, I just want to get more fit. That's my wheel out of balance, is my fitness. So I want to get that in line. Sleep analysis, if that's an issue, we have sleep analysis and coaching for sleeping, and mental skills training. And we've got apps, and we've got actual individuals that can help through that. So that's more on the prevention side. And what I always say is, we can do everything from a preventative standpoint, but still things happen, right? It's like you think of the wheels on a car, and let's say, you've done everything preventative, you've gone for your maintenance tests and everything else, but you're driving down the road and you get a flat, right? And that's when I say, our body's no different. We can do everything preventative wise, but there's still, stuff still can happen, right? And that's where the medical side of Advica Health comes in. And that's where basically we help people stick handle and get the very best health solutions when they have a health issue. I mean, it's pretty scary right now, but the average wait time to see a specialist in Canada right now is over 20 weeks. Okay, so think of that. That's like 5 months is average wait time before you see a specialist, get an MRI, get a CT scan, all that type of thing. And again, through our different networks, we can access it. So, often, with Advica, we think of when we have a health issue, but it's also very much on the prevention side. What can I do to make sure I don't have any of those health issues down the road? And if I look on that left side, I mean, I've had most of those done, if not all of them. And it's amazing the information you get from them. And then you can change things on an ongoing basis. So, and that just shows, these are some of the networks. So the best way to think of Advica is we're a network of networks. So we link people, not just link, we link, we get second opinions. We use the services of, Mayo, Duke, Harvard, Mass General, Cleveland Clinic, in Canada, Cleveland Clinic, Canada, MedCan, Teladoc, so the best of the best, right? So instead of you having to figure that out, we figure that out for you as a member. Based on the nurse having that discussion or discussions with you, and just helps figure out what the next step is. And I'll just back up a bit, because often people don't know what's the matter. They just say, you know what, I'm just not feeling good, or I don't have energy, or, I'm not sure. And they'll maybe go see a dietitian, or they'll see a nutritionist, or or they'll just randomly try to figure it out on their own. That's really what Advica is there for. It's to help people get what's the issue. Let's determine what the issue or issues are, and then let's get fast track the best treatments for that condition. Okay. So just to wrap up, maybe if I can have a couple of people just share, is there one thing that you, from today, that you're going to say, okay, I'm going to implement that, start implementing that today, tonight, tomorrow, next week? What's one takeaway from everything we've talked about that you'll say, yeah, I'm going to try that? And again, anybody. So I think there may be a chat there.
Yeah, there's mindfulness. Belinda shared that she left the food diary thing. I see, John, you're typing, so we'll wait. But anything, the Wilson shake, awesome. Thank you. Get more sleep. Yes, I think just traditionally in North America, we all just went with the hustle for the first little while, and then quickly realized that it wasn't anything to brag about, that we were only sleeping 5 hours a night. So definitely let's take that back. Eating well with the Wilson shake, awesome. Staying in balance and exercising more. That's great.
Mindfulness.
Amazing.
Yeah, a lot of mindfulness. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Good. And you know what? I just encourage you, do one thing. You probably saw somewhere in there was a thing called baby steps. I think the reason, again, a lot of us fail is we try to do everything, right? And I can say personally, I just take baby steps. Like I'll try one thing, and then a month later, I'll add something else, and I'll just add. And those little things, you think if you change one thing a month over a year, that's 12 things. Over 5 years, that's 60 health habits that you've changed, right? So that's one thing a month, right? And it's amazing how it adds up. So Vanessa, if you could just finish up on the last slide. So again, just like to thank everyone for attending. And I certainly, our whole goal here is to help people in their own health journey. And hopefully you got something out of today. But if you'd like a complimentary consultation with myself or Aastha or Vanessa, just on how we can help, or any guidance, or even if Advica can help you or your family or your company or your employees, be pleased to have that discussion with you. So please feel free to reach out to me. My email is there, and we will send this out to all participants as well. And as I mentioned, we're going to now focus on each wheel, and the next one is on nutrition, which is the first wheel of health. So we're going to spend the whole hour on nutrition and what are the best nutrition habits and what's game-changing things you can do from a nutrition standpoint to dial up your overall health. And that's June 16th. So we'll send that out as well. And is there anything else? Oh, contact information. If you haven't read my book, again, I just came out with my latest book. It's Never Too Late to Be Healthy. So the link is there. You can order on Amazon or send us a note and we'll get one out to you. Okay. So I think that is it. Anything else in the chat, Aastha?
No, we don't have anything in the chat, but we definitely do want to give away one of Kevin's books. So we'll pick a winner from our attendee list, and we'll definitely reach out to you, grab an address, and pass that on.